So we are on. Hello and welcome to Tech Sparks by NTV. This is Basil Kinani, your host, as usual. I have with me Aydin Mirzaee. Aydin is an avid technologist and a passionate entrepreneur, a graduate of electrical engineering and management program at the University of Ottawa. Aydin has co-founded a number of companies in the tech sector. He founded a mobile 2.0 company called BOK Systems. Before that, Aydin was part of the platform network management at Nortel Networks. Before Nortel, he actually was in the fundraising aspect, and he was in charge of the Student World Assembly, a global non-governmental organization. So first, let me thank you for being with us today, Aydin.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me on, and looking forward to the interview.
Fantastic. So let me start by leaving the floor for you to kind of give a quick background about your stories in startups and entrepreneurship.
At a younger age, I got introduced to the internet. I think I was maybe 13 or 14, and I wanted to go out and get a job, but I was too young, so no one would do that or give me a job. And so back in the day, there were those Yahoo chat rooms, and I think it all started when my brother and I picked up a couple of books on HTML, and so we went on to the Yahoo chat rooms, and we're just typing them, just anyone looking for a website to build, and things like that. So we went from chat room to chat room, and then finally there was this one lady in Illinois, and she wanted us to do that. And she said, okay, I'll give you a call right away. And I'm like, oh God, she's actually going to call us. And so we picked up the phone, and then I put a cloth on the phone and tried to make myself sound a lot older, pretend I was a college student. And so we did that, and she gave us our first contract for $200, and I was like 13 or 14. And that was our real, I guess, beginning in the web and things like that. And so that's where everything started. That's where my brother and I wanted to do more and more, and eventually we started a few companies together, did the whole web development thing for other people for a while, and then we basically started one company, or one major effort, which I guess we'll talk a little bit about today, Box Systems, and that was our first major effort to start a traditional venture, and it failed. So we learned a lot of things there, and afterwards we just went on and tried to, and basically started Chide.it, which is 3.5, almost 4 years into it, and it's doing pretty well. And I think a lot of that is because we did have a few companies before that didn't go as we expected, so we had some failures along the way, but we learned a lot from those, and those things really helped us in building the products that we have today.
Great. So the way I usually do those interviews, I usually have a list of questions that I ask my guests. But from the energy that I see, from the way you talk, and from reading a lot about your background, I see a lot of energy, and then also you love public speaking. So I think the way I'm going to do this today is just mention a specific area, and then let you just go with it. So from the public speaking events and things that you've done in the past, I noticed that you do a lot of public speaking about the web and the business models in the web right now. So would love to hear from you on that aspect.
Sure, absolutely. So the web is a really interesting game, and there were a couple of times that I learned really big lessons. I think so. One of our companies right now, we basically have one company, which is Chide, but one of our products is fluidsurveys.com. So basically, it's an online survey tool where people from all over the world go in. They log in, they pay us a monthly fee, and they can create surveys and forms and distribute those surveys and forms, and then collect and analyze, the data that they get. So when we were first starting this company, and this was our first foray, and to a large extent we thought, all right, we're going to build this thing, and then we're going to get all these people signing up, and we'll do a little bit of SEO and Google AdWords, and we're going to mix these things together, and everything's just going to work, and people are just going to sign up. And there were a couple of lessons that we learned along the way. One was that in the beginning we thought if anyone signs up with a Gmail address or a Yahoo address or one of those generic addresses, then that basically means that this person is just not a company, so probably doesn't have any money, so we probably shouldn't waste much time with them. But what we quickly realized was that a lot of times people, in order to test the waters, what they do is they do sign up with their personal email address, and if things go well, then they tell their boss or their director, and only then does a credit card come in, and only then do they start paying. And a lot of times we had directors of big companies or universities and colleges from all across come in and start with one of those accounts. So that's one lesson that we learned. The other one that was interesting along the same lines was that you can't just expect the freemium model, which is really popular now, right? So you got all these old companies. We have a free plan, and then if they want more, they can upgrade. And it should be self-serve. They should do their own things. We're not going to bug our free users and email them and that sort of thing. But what we realized is that the second that we started contacting even the free users, the conversion rates would increase dramatically. I mean, just the fact of emailing someone and making that. I'm not talking about a canned message or anything like that. I'm talking about a personalized message. Oh, I see that you're coming from this university. We've had other users from that university, and these are the sort of things they work on. Pleasure to have you on board. If there's anything that you need, that sort of thing. But once it's a customized message, and all of a sudden something magical happens, which is you get a connection established with that person. And when that happens, the chances of them, and you can get your own stats on these sort of things, but the chance of them converting to paid customers is a lot higher, and the chances of them staying with you is a lot higher. And the next time around that they need something, all of a sudden they feel more of an affinity towards your product or service than anyone else. And so the concept of drip campaigns was something that was really interesting. Just sort of have a sales process that someone follows through on. And you have to keep in mind that with most online services, unless you're doing something brilliantly different than everyone else, you can have a lot of competitors that do a lot of the same sort of things. And for you to differentiate, or at least stay in the mind of the customers while they are searching through and comparing your product with other products, it's really cool to have them, get an email once every 2 days or 5 days or whatever it is, so that they're constantly remembering you, and eventually you keep tweaking these things. And the web is all about minor tweaks that a bunch of tweaks that each result in a 5% improvement. Once you add them up, then they make a huge difference. And so you're always changing things, and eventually you'll get this right, and you'll have an awesome drip campaign that goes on for 6 months. And I'm sure, I think even on Skype or on other companies, if you don't use a service, for example, for X number of amount of time, they'll send you an email that says, "We miss you, please come back. Here's an extra credit," or something. This stuff really works. And we realized a lot of it through experimentation, but where we got the hint was, okay, let's go out and see really successful companies out there and see what we can learn from them. It seems that they do these emails. It must work because they not only do them, but they keep doing them. They don't stop. And so we just went out and tried to find other companies that were in our space or doing software as a service, and we try to imitate them. And if you do what successful people do, chances are you'll benefit from that, and you'll customize the model to your own business. But that's where you can get a lot of the ideas from that perspective.
So speaking of business models, I don't want to put you on a spot, but from what you've seen, can you think of or name one business model that's kind of unconventional, crazy business model that worked really well online?
Worked really well online. So it's an interesting one. So I could talk about the survey business. I could talk about something that we did that didn't work. It was a really interesting experiment. So fluid surveys, online survey tool, that sort of thing. So when you think of this, we were reading on forums and things. We were trying to come up with pricing, and obviously we have a lot of competitors. And, we have our differentiators and that sort of thing. But we thought, all right, instead of just focusing on features, where people, we have these features and they don't, we thought, let's innovate from a business perspective as well. And we read on a lot of forums that one of the things that people really wanted to do was basically have one-time surveys. And what a one-time survey means is, okay, I'll pay you a fee, and instead of a monthly fee for every month that I use your service to either distribute surveys, create them, or analyze them, instead of paying you that monthly fee, I'll just pay you a one-time fee, and then you just let me have the survey forever, right? And we thought that that's a brilliant idea. and that if we launch that, we can steal all sorts of customers from all our major competitors, because, why would they want to pay a monthly fee? They should just switch to us and pay that one-time fee, and then that's that. And so we call this one-time surveys. So we built in the feature, and we came up with this idea where you could get a survey for just $40, and once you get this thing, then you can, basically launch your survey for as long as you want. So it was pretty radical in the sense that no one else was doing it, which was very odd too. And so what we did is we launched this thing. We did a press release, and we search engine optimized it. So if you search for one-time surveys, we'd be the first one to show up. And we were getting traffic, and people were signing up, and we were getting all these sales, and our sales did increase, and we were like, wow, this is awesome. It's working, and we're going to be rich. But then what happened was a lot of our customers who'd been very loyal and paying us monthly fees and that sort of thing realized, well, I do more than one survey, but realistically, I only run 3 surveys at any one point in time. So if I paid you 3 times $40, then I can have surveys forever. I would never have to pay you again, but I can continue to ask you for customer support. And, I'm going to move my job, and I'm going to have this new job in December. So my colleague is going to step in, and she doesn't know anything about the product. She's going to have to relearn everything and go through that same customer support process again. And so it was this huge nightmare that happened. So we started losing customers that had been paying us even higher than $20 a month. So we have our Ultra plan, which is at $59 a month. So they were paying that, and they would cancel that and go with these lower plans. So we were killing ourselves, but also the big rush of customers that we were expecting to get from all these other places didn't happen either. And so we just named it as pretty big failure, and we just moved away from it. And then we realized that this is probably why a lot of those other customers or a lot of our competitors that are a lot bigger didn't go through this sort of a model, because the whole concept of earning a monthly revenue, there's a lot of great things to be said about that. Now, one of the disadvantages that we have in the survey industry is that most people actually do projects that are on a monthly basis. So you'll do a survey, you need to do this one thing, maybe a client satisfaction survey, some sort of study, and you want to do this for 3 months, and then that's it. You don't want to go past that, because that's the only thing you need to do. So naturally, you sign up, pay for 3 months, and then you cancel and you're out, no cancellation fees or things like that. This is really, it's still the SaaS model, but it kind of sucks. Like, it's a pretty crappy SaaS model in the sense that if your company signs up for a CRM company, a Salesforce, or a Basecamp, once you start paying them, this is core to your business. So you're never going to go away unless those guys do something to really piss you off or something drastically changes in your business. You're going to continue to pay them that same amount of money month to month. And naturally, if you're doing a good job, your revenues every month should be higher, and so on and so forth. And you won't see spikes and things like that. But for us, there's some seasonality involved, because a lot of people do surveys, in these months, and then they'll stop, and then they'll continue again. And so there's a lot of factor in that. And the problem with that is during that time, so let's say someone uses you for 3 months, and then they stop using you, and then someone says, hey, you should also check out this other company as well, and then maybe they'll go check out that other company, and that other company has a sale going on or something, and they'll just jump ship. And so there are a lot of problems associated with it, but there are solutions. So one of the things that you'll probably notice a lot is companies that kind of are in the same spot as we are trying to really push their annual plan. So they'll say, oh, but if you sign up for a year, we'll give you 2 months for free. Or we'll throw in these extra add-ons. Or if you sign up for the yearly plan, you'll get unlimited responses, whereas the monthly plans, you get only a certain number of responses. And so the yearly plans are really what people try and push, because these customers are in it for the long haul, and they're the type of customers that you would want to get. And a lot of companies are, at least in our space, are trying to move away from even showing people very obviously where the monthly plan is. They really have to look for it. And so that's another thing we learned along the lines that yearly customers are worth so much more. And the other thing that we learned on top of that was that a lot of what you do, conversions on the web, have to do with terminology. Like, just changing words here and there make a huge difference. Now, one of the things is I know that we're targeting a lot of, I guess, people in the Middle East. And one of the things to keep in mind is, I mean, not just for the Middle East, but every country refers to things differently. So if you ask for someone, even if they're searching for English, they just searching for things in English, the terms that they will use will be very different. And it's funny because it'll actually be different from country to country. So one of the best ways to figure out what people actually search for from country to country and what to optimize your ads towards. Now, this is sort of a trick that we learned along the way is when we're doing our Google AdWords campaigns, we actually do different campaigns in different countries because different keywords mean different things. So you'll be really surprised, like you might try in Egypt or something, and in Egypt, for some reason, this keyword is amazing. Like it converts so well. But then you try the same thing in, let's say, Jordan, and that same keyword is really crappy. Like it's just not doing the job. And there's subtle differences. Not necessarily if they're in Arabic or something else, but also if they're in, even if they are in English. And so we noticed that those same differences in Canada versus, and so we're located in Canada right now, so Canada versus Europe, it's still very different because people just refer to things. And you really want to figure that out before you spend a lot of money trying to search engine optimize and rank for those keywords. So Google AdWords is a really cheap way for you to go out and say, all right, these keywords work really well in these countries, and then it's a lot easier for you. So let's say that you get a specific top-level domain that's targeted towards Jordan, you're going to get a lot more traffic, and you don't have to dilute your focus. You can just focus on those keywords and ranking well within that country. And so that's another thing. So if you're in Jordan, you really want to try your very best, if possible, to keep your servers in Jordan if you're targeting that market. And the reason for that is there are two things Google really cares about. One is your top-level domain. So if you're in Canada.ca, for example, but the other thing is the location of your servers. So if your servers are located in Jordan, more traffic, you will have a higher weighting for when people are searching for survey software. So it's really strange. You can go from country to country and search for the same terms, and even if you're searching in English, you're going to get different results based on whatever servers are close by. And that's something really important to consider because it really, if you're targeting a specific audience, you want to do your best to get all that traffic, and so you have a big advantage in comparison to other companies who aren't doing the same. I mean, the web is just so much about experimentation. Another thing that we realized, one other thing that we tried that really failed, and it's okay to have failures because just as long as you're testing and you have your metrics, if you don't have metrics, you're kind of screwed on the web. So you want to have as much, in metrics as you want. There are a lot of really cool services to use. One of the ones that we use all the time is Kissmetrics. And what's really cool about it is Kissmetrics is all about the person and the visitor rather than a session. So let me explain what I mean by that. So let's say that you come in and you search for online survey software, okay? And the first thing that you click on is an ad for Fluid Surveys. So you click on that ad, you check out the site, you're like, yeah, it's okay, it's not bad, it's pretty cool. And then you just close your browser. And then tomorrow you remember the name Fluid Surveys and you want to do a little bit more research because now you have more time. So you search for Fluid Surveys, but this time you click on the organic link from Google. So not the ad, but the organic link. Right. You click on that, and once you click on that, then you go in and you sign up. But the problem is now when you go to Google Analytics, it's going to say that the reason that this person signed up is because they clicked on an ad in Google. They clicked on your organic listing. Whereas in reality, it actually came from that ad, and that was the impetus. So what Kissmetrics allows you to do is something even more fancy than that. So it'll track on a person-to-person basis, they came from a Google ad, then they clicked on an organic listing, and then they went away, and then they clicked on one of your banner ads that showed up on dig.com, and then they came back. And so you can really figure these things out, and this sort of stuff's really powerful. And one of the things that we realized in this whole process was another experiment that we ran that failed miserably, but I mean we learned a lot from, was we have different pricing tiers, right? So we have the Pro plan at $19 a month and the Ultra plan at $59 a month, and then there's the enterprise stuff. But so we thought, all right, well, we're Fluid Surveys, and so maybe we should theme and brand ourselves because we want to establish a brand so people identify with us and so we're different. And so we created something called, we decided to name our plans to sort of match the Fluid Survey's branding. And so we called those the Atlantic plan and also the Pacific plan. So the Atlantic Ocean is a lot smaller than the Pacific Ocean, and so the Ultra plan, which was a more fancy plan, was the Pacific, and the other one was the Atlantic. And the reason we named it that way is because, again, like the Pacific is almost twice the size of the Atlantic. But the problem with that was that, and what we realized very quickly is that no one actually knew that the Pacific was a lot larger than the Atlantic. So what ended up happening is that we had someone from New York call in and say, I really like your software, it's so cool, but I don't understand, I'm in New York, and so why can't I sign up for the Pacific plan? I mean, why does location matter? And we're like, are you serious? I mean, and it was the most ridiculous thing ever, but it turns out that, different people perceive things in different lights, and just because, everyone at your company thinks that your customers are going to be able to understand something very quickly, it doesn't mean that the web really works that way. And that's why it's always constant experimentation and not just sticking with the status quo. You should always be A/B testing your most important pages, always be trying to increasing your optimization and things like that. And the reason for that is that, one little change, and we've seen this so many times, can actually double your sign-up rate, which means it doubles your revenue. And you don't have to double your staff. I mean, just like a small thing like that. And so experimentation, different countries, different cultures, and constantly switching things up so that you learn more from the process makes a huge difference.
Very insightful. So jumping from what you just described to viral marketing, which I know that you love to speak about that. What sort of ideas and things you've seen in the past that also worked in that domain?
In the viral marketing space. Okay, so one of the things, obviously, so you have to be on Twitter. This is absolutely crucial. Only because a lot of really interesting things happen on Twitter. One of which is, if you have a lot of competitors, chances are there will be people on Twitter that are complaining about your competitors, and that's a really amazing opportunity for you to reach out to them and say, hey, I totally agree with you, they do kind of suck, you should sign up for us. And by the way, here's a discount code. And there's so many people out there just doing that, just complaining about competitors or how they're not doing a good job. And this is your opportunity to reach out to those people and make them aware of a better service that's out there. And so that's one of the things we do. We're constantly monitoring different streams. And here's where the language thing comes in, right? So you should be monitoring Twitter streams in all the languages that you're targeting, and also the different terminology that people are using. So just go to yourself and think about and brainstorm, like, what kind of things can would someone who would be talking about my product or service, what kind of things would they be writing and explaining, and basically monitor those Twitter streams. Maybe you want to use TweetDeck, maybe you want to use Hootsuite, whatever it is, and basically reach out to those people. And build up a following over time. So, if you're in the survey industry, so one of the things that we do is we give out a lot of cool stats, like 40% of bloggers do this, or 22% of males between this age do this other thing, and it's all relevant to our industry. And so over time, people think of you as an authoritative person in that industry. And of course, besides competitors complaining, sometimes, occasionally, obviously everyone in your audience is super awesome companies and no one would ever complain about anything they do, but hypothetically speaking, if someone does complain about something that you do, here's your opportunity to jump in and fix it. And if you do fix it, people get really impressed. And there was this one time that we had a situation like that where one of our customers wasn't happy with this particular feature being in a higher plan, and it didn't make sense to him because it was such a core feature. Why would you have to pay so much more to get this one little feature? And, we looked at his tweet, and it was probably like 12:30 p.m. after midnight, and we looked at it, and we said, this guy's actually right. It makes sense. It shouldn't be. And so we actually switched that on the fly, and we sent him a message, you're right. We switched it. Now it's part of the lower plan. Now you have it, and so does everyone else. and that really made him happy. But then it turned out that he was like one of the lead guys at Evernote, which is obviously a pretty famous company. And so he wrote a big blog post about this thing, and that got us a lot of traffic. And so when you do nice things for people on the web, it's so easy to share it because it's a retweet, or if someone writes a blog, and if there's someone who has a following, I mean, it can be pretty impactful. And obviously you want as many of these link backs because that increases your domain authority, and which increases your search engine rankings, and it's just all around really good. So I would just say that if you're not on Twitter, get on Twitter today. If you're enterprise software, if you're consumer software, it doesn't matter. You should be monitoring Twitter all the time. Once you figure it out, then you can outsource it and you can have another company work on it. But to figure these things out, you should be on there and I guess addressing that area.
Very interesting. I must confess, this was one of the easiest interviews, but yet very engaging and rich information. I wish all the interviews were like that.
Right. I mean, you kind of gave me the go-ahead to
Thank you.
start
No,
talking.
that's been
for a long
very
time. You just have to make sure to stop me too.
Oh, no, this has been very insightful. Thank you. So, in closing, again, I would love, to leave the floor for you just to give some pointers to our entrepreneurs here in the Arab world, and from what you've seen in markets like the U.S. and Canada, and as we spoke earlier, you said you have some few clients in the Middle East. What sort of pointers you can give to these guys who want to make it big?
Sure. So, I mean, the internet is obviously your friend. There's huge opportunity for you to target any country, anywhere. And as a matter of fact, the country-specific targeting is an amazing, it's a great idea. So, you should look out, if you have product or service, which country is not addressing it, and just go out and try to address customers in that area. Another thing that works really well is the concept of affiliate. So we have some affiliates in all over the world, including Middle Eastern countries. And the way it works is that we kind of built a web franchise type model where someone will come in and say, all right, well, we'll do the customer support and we'll do the marketing, but you guys do all the tech stuff, and you can teach us what you know in Canada, and then apply that elsewhere, and this turns out to work really well. So one of the ideas is that you could basically reach out to any company that you think has a good product or service, and maybe try and take advantage of that in your own local area, and it can be huge as long as people are. I guess different countries would be different. Some countries are more readily there to be able to offer or to put up their credit cards and things like that. Some countries, another thing, they want invoices, so they don't want to pay by credit card. So we have a few countries that are like that. They just have to work by the invoice system. And so you just have to really understand these things in the different countries. And in terms of just a last piece of advice, just to all sorts of entrepreneurs out there, especially those that are thinking of starting a business but don't know, they're not sure, it's really risky, it's scary. The thing is, don't think about it, just do it, burn all your bridges, you have no way to back, and you have no choice but to succeed. And once you're in that position, just be stubborn, changing your approach, tweaking, testing, and keep moving forward. It might take 2 years, it might take 3 years, but eventually you'll make it, and then it just becomes so much more fun once that happens.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Aydin, for, again, very inspiring thoughts and points. And we look forward to hosting you again in the near future and speak more about those hot trends in the web space.
Sure, absolutely. I had a great time. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Have a good one. Thank you.